Welcome to the Mastering Dentistry Series on the Noobie Dentist Podcast. This podcast will focus on providing value to dentists who are striving to learn, evolve, and master their trade. Your hosts are Dr. Ziad Hamad and Dr. Ricky Hamami. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mastering Dentistry Series with the Noobie Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ricky Hamami. Today, I'm both ecstatic and honored to have a fellow Habibi on this episode. My guest today graduated from Baghdad University in Iraq, where he received his bachelor's degree, and then moved to the United States to complete his dental school training at the University of Colorado. My friend then decided to pursue specialization as a periodontist, where he received his Master's of Science degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. He works in private practice and is part of faculty at Virginia Commonwealth University. He is a member of many dental organizations and has too many credentials to list. When he's not practicing dentistry, he is busy dancing the waltz, keeping up with his social media stardom, showing off his biceps, and spending time with his family. I am so thrilled to introduce to you my superhuman friend, Dr. Fadi K Hasan.
Thank you very much for inviting me, actually. I was really honored that you invited me and sent me the invitation the other day. So, when you reached out, I was like, are you willing to do this? I was like, let's do it. Let's share the story and, just kind of tell people at least my experience and how we got here today. So I look forward to this.
Super excited. I'm super excited. By the way, when I was doing the research about you, I gotta say you look a lot better bald because you kind of have this Jason Statham look. It looks badass and it looks like you're ready to cut through soft tissue right now.
I am ready. It's this COVID situation, like not being able to do a one gum graft. Oh my God, man, it's tough. I mean, and we just got back into practice. I feel like my brain's been kind of frozen for a while. So getting back into using the instruments and playing with gums, I think it's going to take another couple of weeks until we get into that routine again one more time.
I know. We're all itching.
I know.
So a bit about how Fadi and I connected. I first met Fadi through Instagram. By the way, you guys all need to follow him because he posts such great educational content, work, and he has amazing photography as well. The handle is Fadi.K.Hasan, correct?
It's fkh.implant.perio. Or, once you type Fadi K Hasan, it'll immediately show up as well.
Perfect. I'll add that to the show notes as well for the listeners. So you're a fellow Iraqi and renowned periodontist. So when I first talked to you, I just kind of first asked you about the implant pathways, and you helped me a lot in my decision-making process and planning a pathway for myself. So I really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
So let's talk about a little bit your background story, why you chose dentistry, how you ended up in perio. And we'll get you just to skim the surface because I'd like to share more detail about your background story a little later. And I assure you guys, it's something that you have to stay in tune for because it's the most inspirational story I've ever heard. So truly remarkable. But we'll start with skimming it off first.
All right. So for me, dental school was never in my agenda. Being a Middle Eastern and from Iraq, our parents always kind of push us medicine. So we had no medical doctors in the family. We had no dentists in the family. So I was hopefully going to be the shining star of becoming a doctor in our, first one in the family. And my GPA back home was 0.1 from getting me into med school. So when my dad came to me, he's like, "Congratulations, going to dental school." I looked at him and was like, "I'm really not happy." And I thought I was going to hate dental school. But it was amazing that maybe in the first couple of months, once we got into that dental anatomy course and we started carving teeth, with wax, I was like, this is so much fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. And by the end of my first year, the faculty actually came to me and it's like, "Would you want to be like a kind of like an instructor for the next year's, first year dental students?" And for me, I was like, "Yes, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much for considering me." He's like, "Yeah, we love your hand skills. I need to kind of teach the next year's dental students." So, and that kind of carried on all the way through the remaining 4 or 5 years of dental school back in Iraq. Like every year, I would see fresh new dental students. I was like, "Yeah, our doctors told us to come to you, so can you just show us?" So I would sit down with with freshmen, I would say, and just kind of do that. So that's how I got, it just got more and more fun for me.
That's awesome.
And then that's when I graduated 2007, and I started 2002, finished 2007, and about a year later is when I immigrated to the States. And then, for us to practice in the States, either do a GPR, which is a general practice residency, or any kind of specialty, or you go back into dental school again. And for me, because this was a time of war in Iraq, so we lost a lot of our faculty members because of the sectarian violence that we had, whether you're Sunni, Shia, Christian, Muslim.
Yeah.
By the time I got into my senior year dental school home, our dental experience, honestly, and treating patients was not ideal, not the best. We had a lot of requirements that we were supposed to be doing, and we just kind of skimmed it through, honestly, all the way through graduation because of the situation at that time. So for me, I thought, coming to the States, I really wanted to get back into dental school because I felt like there was so much of my education that I did not fully, fulfill. So, I got lucky. I studied for my Part 1 dental boards and TOEFL exam. And the first school I applied to was the University of Colorado in Denver. And I got an interview within about 2 to 3 weeks, and set up a time and a date for your interview with a bench exam, and I got in. So it was the first school I applied to, first school I got in. So I was really lucky within my first year being in the United States. So kind of one of the youngest, foreign trained dentists getting into a dental school program. And I'm here with folks who have 5, 10, maybe even 15 years of experience. And one of my classmates was actually one of my faculty back home. He was 10 years older than me. He was one of my pros faculty. And, I was actually one of his patients back home even. So being in the same class and talking to him, and I'm talking to, hey, Dr. Ali says, if you call me Dr. Ali one more time, I'm going to shove my foot up where. This is like I'm your classmate. I want you to treat me as a classmate because from now on we are equal. And
That's awesome.
so that's, he was so humble about it. And then, as we went into dental school, I think one of my weakest subjects was actually perio. I just could not understand what perio is, no matter how hard I studied. It was just not going through my brain. So
Gingivalis.
luckily we had Gingivalis and T. denticola. I was like, shoot me, I don't want to hear those guys' names. Luckily, we had one of our faculty, and he started kind of a non-credited, after hours class where, he kind of sent out a mass invitation for the dental students, and basically said, like, if you guys are interested, let's do this, just so you guys get more familiar with peer, whoever is interested in it. So I signed up for it. And we did it. We started actually in the summer of my first year of dental school in Colorado. In this case, it would be like first year for the international dental students, which is equivalent to like the third year of of the DDS class. So I started that, and giving us classic literature, some position papers from the American Academy of Perio. We had some para residents join us as well, showing their cases, and even some local practitioners in the Denver, Colorado area as well. And they started showing their cases, and I'm looking at them, and it's like, wow, this is just more than scaling and root planing. This is periosurgery, and I'm seeing ridge splits and sinus lifts and full arch cases and immediate implants, and I was like, this is incredible. I mean, I would like to see myself actually doing this in the future. Luckily about Colorado as a school is that dental students are actually allowed to do periosurgery during their training. So even though we had a perio specialty program, but they did give us that opportunity. So if you want to do your own crown lengthenings, if you want to do your own osseous resective surgeries, for example, they would give you that opportunity. And so we had part-time faculty come in, and I got into doing pretty much most of my crown lengthening procedures and my osseous surgery procedures. So I would see their follow-ups. At the same time, I'll also be able to restore those cases once everything has been kind of stabilized and rehabilitated. And so I did a couple externships during that dental school. I did about 2 externships. One was at the University of Maryland. I did that for 2 weeks, and that was a phenomenal experience because I got really great one-to-one with the residents and see what they even do more as residents,
Mhm.
like the surgical capabilities. And then I kind of went back to Colorado and applied to perio programs, and I applied to actually about maybe 3 or 4 at that time, and one of them was UPenn, Maryland, VCU, and I applied to like literally 10 GPR programs because my goal was if I don't get into perio, then I'll do at least 1 year of GPR just to improve my CV and resume, and then I'll reapply again the following year.
It was always
Um,
perio.
so it's always been perio. I mean,
Hmm.
that was set in stone for me at that point in time. Um, and I luckily I got into Maryland VCU because at that point you would hear back from those program directors really early, which was around I think the first week of September, Labor Day if I'm not mistaken, and at that point I was like, should I go to Maryland VCU? Well, Maryland was like 40,000 a year tuition, VCU was tuition free. I was like, I'm going to Richmond, Virginia. So that's how I ended up being in Richmond, Virginia for 3 years. So I started in 2012 and finished in 2015. And also, it was a phenomenal experience. And the reason that is because I was lucky, honestly, to be with two great co-residents that we were able to really help bounce ideas off each other, sit down, even after everyone goes away, we just kind of draw like, plan for our next surgery, our next perio surgery the next day or the week after, how we would approach this case. And it was that kind of camaraderie that we had between the three of us, and that kept help pushing us, like, well, what can we do next? And what can we do next? What can we learn more? And we would reach out to the oral surgery faculty, and at that time there was always kind of this competition between perio and oral surgery, and in most dental schools you'll see that. But some of the faculty there were really understanding, and we had some really challenging cases that, we thought that they might be the best people to help us approach them.
Yeah.
And they were really kind and generous enough to come in and sit down with us after hours and kind of, kind of show us how they would approach it from a surgical standpoint. So that was my experience at VCU, and it was definitely something I wouldn't trade, and at one point in time during my residency, one of my faculty, which is a full-time faculty, and he says, I have some root resorption. I need a osseous resective surgery. I want you to do it for me.
Wow.
And I'm a second year resident. Like there are three third-year residents that have a full year of experience ahead of me. He's like, I've seen your work. I want you to do it for me. I was like, that means the world to me. Thank you.
That's
So I ended up doing 2 surgeries for him. One
wow.
on each side of the mouth, and he says, yeah, I trust you, and I want you to do that for me. So for me, that was just I was overwhelmed, by the level of trust that my faculty had in me at that time. That's just one of those experiences that you can never forget
Of
as
course.
a resident. And again, so I finished in 2015 from Perio, and I moved back to DC because my wife was in DC and she's been practicing in DC as well as an attorney pretty much for the last 5 years. So I was kind of geographically limited in a way.
Yeah.
For me, if I had the option, I'd maybe go back to Colorado because I love that state so much. Um, so anyway, being in DC and definitely going through the first job was always the most challenging of them all because you might hit it or you might miss it. I was not on the same page with my first employer. We kind of two different thinking process. So I think it was very challenging for me, and you definitely learn from your mistakes, what you
Of
should
course.
be saying, what you should not be saying. You think you know it all when you finish residency, and you still don't know zilch, uh, compared to a guy who has like 20 plus years of experience. So it was really humbling for me, and I learned a lot. I was like, being more diplomatic, I would say in a way.
That's the most
So
important
yeah,
thing.
then
Yeah. Learn.
yeah, so then kind of going to found another employer, and have been with them since then, honestly. Yeah.
Awesome. So do you juggle between practices, or is it like situated in one mostly?
No, so right now I practice in two different periodontal practices. One is in DC, one is in Virginia. I joined the DC perio practice last August.
Hmm.
I'm also a mobile periodontist, so I do that on my Fridays and Saturdays. And at one point in time, in addition to the perio practices I used to go to, I was going to at least 10 other, general practitioner offices. I'm giving them my periodontal services. So, by the end of next year, and I'm doing my taxes, I'm looking like, God, how many 1099s I have to file at this point in time. And it got overwhelming.
Yeah,
And a lot exhausting, honestly. I mean, and follow-up care gets a little bit more challenging when you're spread out to so many offices because you might go to them once a month.
I agree. Yeah.
And for me, yeah, and for me, like I like to see my patients. If there's a problem, I want to make sure that I see them, I take care of them. So there's a lot of delegation that you have to go do it over the phone or through the dentist themselves, like and kind of see what really is the matter, what's going on, and how we can manage a complication if it arises at that time.
Yeah. And one thing that I know from before, from your live with Dr. Dean, is you actually spent quite a bit of time away from your wife and your kid as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't you just become a dentist and kind of stay with them as compared to moving away and doing the specialty? Is it just the passion that you had for it, I guess?
Yeah, so
What was your thought process?
yeah, so it's not like me and wife, like we started different continents. I was in Iraq, she was in the US. And then we got into the same country but different states. So when I came to the States, she was in DC studying law. I was in Tennessee studying for my boards, part one, part two dental boards. And then we became Colorado and then DC. And then by the time I finished dental school, we got married in dental school at that time. So like in my senior dental school. And for me, like and we didn't have a kid yet at that point in time, so we're just kind of still married couple, but long distance since the day we met until we got married, we were still long distance. So
That's it's the Iraqi way,
with the Iraqi way,
unfortunately.
exactly. So and I make fun of it because we actually started living technically together literally maybe after I finished my para residency in 2015. And mind you, we've been married since 2010 and we got engaged in 2007. So from
Wow,
2007 till 2015, 8 years later, we have been strictly long distance.
that's
From
persistence.
different continents to different countries to the same country, different states. At one point in time, she was in Virginia. I was still doing my residency in Virginia, but I was in Richmond, 110 miles away, and I would go see
Wow.
her on weekends only. So I would drive, on Friday night, come back on Sunday night, and drive and go on. So that's how I used to do at that time. And for me, my son was born a month before I started my residency.
Wow.
For so those 3 years were definitely challenging, I would say, because I don't. He never knew me, who I was for the first 18 months. I would go there. Every time he sees me, he would cry. By the second day, he would slightly warm up in the morning, and that was Sunday morning, pretty much for me. And then by Sunday evening, I would have to go
You're
back. So he
leaving.
would kind of warm up for a few hours, and that was it.
Yeah.
And when I was there on the weekends in residency, we had to do a lot of literature studies, and when I say a lot, I would say like each resident had about 40 to 50 articles, classic old literature that we had to literally knit and pick
Wow.
over the weekend because we had to be ready by Monday afternoon.
Hmm.
So would spend my entire Saturday, even Sunday morning, just studying, studying, studying all the time. So I had very minimal time, with the family, during the first 3 years. Um, and it wasn't until like I finished residency and then went back, finally, moving back to Northern Virginia and DC. My son's like, okay, I know you're my dad, but why are you coming? Why are you staying longer than
Right.
normal?
Yeah.
Usually within 2 days, you're gone. So that, and I think he felt threatened at one point in time, like I'm here more than normal, and like this is my mom, and she's mine,
Yeah.
and who are you to claim her? So I was like, yeah, dude, I'm the dad, so this is my time now with your mom. Pretty much it was like that.
Who are
So
you
it
to
was a
come
good
after all
battle the
these
first few
years?
months. Yeah, it was a constant battle. So I was like, now it's my turn, dude. So it was fun,
That's
getting
awesome.
into that, accustomed to it.
Yeah. No, that just shows your persistence. That's amazing. So I've always kind of wondered what it's like to be a specialist because I think it's an entirely different ballgame than being a general dentist. What's like a typical day or week of a periodontist?
Um, Great question. You know, being a specialist, I would say I think it just it's more of a passion into that field, if anything else, you know. And
Mm.
I know we were just talking earlier before we started, like, you know, if you had an option, what would you go to? And you said either perio or ortho, and they're two very different specialties. I think, you know, you wind up down to which specialty you want to go to based on what you feel more comfortable with and where do you see yourself in the future. For me, perio was that go-to because, you know, I did general dentistry and, you know, and I just couldn't see myself or in, you know, for the next 20, 30 years, am I going to always be doing, you know, class twos and class threes and crowns and bridges and maybe a few surgeries here and there or a few root canals here and there, you know, so like having that mixed of a day. And I just couldn't see myself do that, honestly. And even my program director at Colorado, I mean, she was really upset. She thought I would apply for pros for whatever reason because she's like, you know, your crown preps are incredible. We love how methodical you are, and you should definitely go in pros. So when I told her I'm going to Perio, she looked at me and was like, "Are you crazy?" I was like, "No, actually, that's what I really love." So being as a specialist, I mean, I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, we're all colleagues, and you know, some specialists they feel like they're more kind of superior because they did 3 years of extra education. And yes, we do 3 years of extra education because that's what we really are into. So get to the nitty details, you know, of the specialties. Do we know more? I do believe so. We know more in our specialty field. That's why we went into it. But our key thing
Of
is that we
course.
also want to
Yeah.
educate our referrals. You know, this is why we're doing this. It's for reasons for A, B, C, and D. We believe that this is the best reason because this is what the literature supports. You know, so any decision that we make as specialists, it's always backed up by literature. A lot of the times can also be backed up by clinical experience, especially if you've done something 100 times and it's been very successful. There might be not a literature to support 100%, but if you feel that it's working really well in your hands, then that might be the way to go for you. It does not mean that is the way to go for other folks out there or other
I agree.
specialists out there. And at the end of the day, what is your main goal as a specialist or as a general dentist? You want patients to be happy. You want a stable dentition in their mouth that they're really comfortable with and they're really proud of. And when you and your referring dentist can provide that quality of treatment for them, it's everything. And then you have the word of the mouth spreading. And most of at one point in time in your career, a lot of your patients also come in because it's a word of the mouth, like from their brother, husband,
Yeah.
sister, cousin, and it's not just from your main referrals. Um, so, I mean, on our day-to-day basis, I work in a truly periodontal practice, meaning I do a lot of osseous surgeries, GTR, crown lengthenings, myself. My associate who works with me as well, he's very implant heavy. Like his referrals send
Mhm.
a lot of the implant cases. I get to see all the perio cases. I do a lot of soft tissue grafting, and I really enjoy. And I keep telling this to everyone. If there's one thing I can do all day long, is soft tissue surgeries. You know, for me, it's the results are predictable in a way that I less headache, less post-operative complications you have to worry about. If there's one area that didn't take really well, you can easily touch it up with another, you know, pull it, you know, a coronally advanced flap or another gum graft to it. Versus, let's say
Yeah.
you have an implant complication or implant failure, their complications tend to be a little bit bigger than it would be for us a gum graft, meaning you'll see a bigger defect that you have to deal with now,
More invasive.
which requires then another surgery, bone graft, membrane, another 4 months, 5 months, or 6 months of healing, and then you have to
Mm.
pray if the bone is going to, you know, take this time or the implant will take for a second time. What are other cofactors that cause this implant to fail? Did we overheat the bone, for example? Did we Was it an implant? Was it a patient-related matter itself, for example, that smoker, diabetic? Is there something that we miss? Any specific medications that they're taking? So I feel like that, there are offices out there which are incredible periodontists, but you'll see very heavy bone grafting implant directed, and you'll see other practices which are very soft tissue directed, and just because that's how they built their practice in that way. And you'll see other ones that are very true periodontal surgeries, your basic osseous resective crown lengthening procedures all day every day.
Yeah.
For me, again, I did a lot of soft tissue grafting. It's mostly that, and then your basic perio surgeries. Implants wise, I say I don't do as much as I would love to do. But again, that's just how my referrals are set up. So again, and most of my referrals, they do their own implants, for example. So which is okay.
Yeah.
It's normal. You get used to it.
Yeah, of course. That's the way I guess dentistry is changing. There's a lot more GPs doing implants, and that's kind of leads into my next question. That's how I first messaged you is kind of talk about implant pathways for general dentists
I
and
think
young
we talked about the
dentists.
Maxi course, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. And honestly, it's an incredible course, and I have a lot of my friends who took the Maxi course. Um, and it's a year-long program, and they start you. I think it's like 3 days a month on a weekend. I think it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
it is.
But
Yeah.
they start with the basics, from bone biology and kind of growing into how the healing process is, how implant placement is, to vertical sinus lifts, indirect sinus lifts, and so on. So they do build you in a really nice systematic way to feel more competent in a way to really do those procedures in a predictable manner. No, there
Hmm.
are those weekend courses that you can take in Mexico and other places in Colombia. Um, those are weekend courses. You place 40, 50 implants and then you leave. You don't see follow-ups.
Yeah.
You don't see how the healing is. You don't know how many how many success or failures you do have. So, um, I mean, you're pretty much just drilling in a bone. That's what it is. There's no good scientific rationale, or there's no good explanation why you're doing this. What are all the factors you have to look at? I don't feel like that's enough education for anyone to pursue and add this to their practice. Because if there's something that comes up and does happen, and we all get complications, don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I've had my share of complications over the last 5 years doing in private practice, but you really need to know how to manage those complications. If I'm doing
Of
something,
course.
I need to know how to deal with it. So that if I get a pulp exposure, I need to know how to do a root canal, for example. If I'm doing an implant failure, I need to know how to clean it out, how to regraft it again, and so on and so on. So that's the thing that I really believe that it's missing in those big programs, in those weekend programs. I believe the Maxi course is much better because it's a breadth of knowledge that they provide for you in a really good way, honestly. So that's just my opinion about it.
That's awesome advice. I completely agree as well. That's my philosophy when I'm looking at courses to take because I've taken a few of the weekend ones and it's awesome. You get to see like results instantaneously and but I think with those longer courses you really get to actually view the complications and I think that's what sets you apart from other clinicians. And that's what sets you apart for patients as well is how you deal with the complications if they do arise. So yeah, that's very true. With regards to, I guess there is a lot of courses for implants, but with regard to soft tissue, what you were mentioning with grafting and whatnot, I think it's, uh, I think general dentists don't do it as much. You have likes of Dr. David Attia. He's a machine. He does everything. He does everything really well.
He does beautiful work, I do have to say. I mean, it's
Yeah,
incredible. And David, he actually did a master's of implantology, in Germany, if I'm not, is that
he did. Yeah,
Goethe University.
yeah,
I mean, and that program is, I mean, it's very heavy on implant therapy and as well. But it's also good about that program is that it teaches them a lot about soft tissue management around implants. Um, One thing is that if you look at implant dentistry in particular, those who are interested in taking implant training, um, is that all they talk about is bone. You have bone, you can place an implant. With Now, if you look at today's literature and all about zero bone loss concepts and by Thomas Linkovich and all that, it's a lot of it has to do with soft tissue.
Tissue, yeah.
And what is the minimum requirement they need for a soft tissue thickness in order to preserve your bone to prevent any future bone loss? So, what are the materials of choice you're using for your final restorations? So, these are all things that, it's now there's more light that's being shed on it, and it's giving us a really great kind of like an encyclopedia or like a book or a reference book for us to go back to, um, and kind of think, okay, that makes more sense from a biological perspective how these things work in our mouth, and then add the mechanical, which is the prosthetic aspect to it as well. So it's amazing now, but you see, especially on Instagram, which is, I think it's a great tool to see what's out there and what people are doing to achieve those results. But you'll see a lot of the periodontists, how much emphasis they put on soft tissue grafting, natural teeth and implants, because we know for a fact that if you have a strong physical barrier, which is your gum graft, it's gonna protect pretty much the underlying foundation, which is your bone, from getting contaminated with bacteria and so on. So and that's a thinking process. Like, you have your own biologic width for your implants, and you need to preserve that and maintain it, not place your implant mucosa, which is not the strongest physical barrier. It's elastic tissue. Food and bacteria gets in, and now you're gonna have a slew of complications that you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. I agree. You obviously have a wealth of knowledge. Do you have anything maybe in the works with regards to education?
So education-wise, there's actually very soon, hopefully, maybe by the end of this year, me and Dimitri would be doing specifically soft tissue grafting courses. And it's going to be very, very hands-on, limited seats, one-on-one
Wow.
whether for connective tissue grafts, free gingival grafts, different techniques from tunnel to vista to open flaps, um, and maybe another day for like provisionalizations and immediate implants and soft tissue emergence for those anterior cases. Um, so that's kind of the works that we've been talking about a lot recently. And maybe by the end of the year, we'll be doing something more of the Northeast, I would say. So within the States, of course.
Yeah.
So again, we're kind of still looking at the logistics of that. But that's one of our goals that we really want to do, because we both have so much passion for soft tissue grafting. And it's interesting, he does it in a very different way than I do it. So we're kind of combining those two together. And I've done 2 live IG sessions with him. The first one was 3 hours long. The second one was 2 hours long. So we just got exhausted. It's like that's a lot of talking on having your phone holding your phone and doing a live IG session.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We had a great conversation. A lot of great questions that we had to us. So we kind of started talking more about, like, maybe we should do like a soft tissue course, for between the two of us. So that's in the works, I think, for us to go into.
That's great news. The viewers will be pretty excited for that, I think. A lot of
We'll
people will
keep
be
you
excited for
posted for
that.
sure. We'll definitely keep you posted, because it's gonna be
Yeah,
really fun, really worth it. Yes.
that's awesome. So I guess imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from now. What's your goal? I guess what's in the future?
So my goal is, like, I'd love to be a business owner. I'm, hopefully in the next maybe year or two, I'll be partnering, in at least in DC with my current employer. It's a great practice, and I would love to see myself, being a partner with him in the next within the next 5 years at least. Um, Another thing I have a lot of passion is education, and I
Hmm.
do love. And I go teach at my residency at BCU, where I did my residency. So I drive down there once a month. And I'm with the dental students in the morning and the residents in the afternoon.
That's incredible.
I love to be all day with the residents if possible. But again, that's just how they had everything set up over there. So I think education, and, like, I like to see myself being on the podium, someday, like in front of a big crowd, and just kind of teaching them what I love to do, but whether it's soft tissue grafting or immediate implants and something in that relationship. So um,
I can
that's
see
where
that.
I love to see myself. Yeah, I mean, I like to see myself, getting up there. It's going to take time, of course. I think if I do end up being on that podium, I think most likely it's going to be definitely soft tissue related
Yeah.
because I like to be the next Giovanni Zucchelli. That's my
That's
dreams
your
and goals to be the next soft tissue guru, or the next, Inaki Gambarino, which is another master. It was a perio pros in Spain. I mean, there are just big names out there, and I strive hopefully to reach them one day in my lifetime,
yeah.
and just kind of get on that level. So it takes a lot of training, takes a lot of dedication, a lot of even as a specialist myself. Every year, I always commit on taking a course at least with some big, guru in the world out there. So 2 years ago, I went to Istvan Urban's course in Budapest. Last year, I went to Frank Zestro for, using Khoury plates. This year, actually, in May, I was supposed to be at Zucchelli's course in Italy. So that
Mm.
got postponed. So we'll, hopefully next year with Marcus Uzor and Otto Zur. So again, it's just, every year, if you really want to grow from a professional perspective and clinician, you can't stop after residency. And I
No, for
do
sure.
see that a lot of people, once they finish residency, they think they know it all and they just stop there and there's no more further education. You won't grow and you're stuck in the same mentality, same idea. You're doing exactly the same technique. I know even if it works really well for you, it does not mean that you're stopping there. You need to continue. You
You need
need
a
to learn.
challenge all the time.
Exactly. You need to challenge yourself, and
Hmm.
because it makes your specialty more interesting because there's so much out there, and you don't want to miss. You don't be the last person on that train, if you're ever going to be on that train. So that's just one strong advice I give to anyone who's really into really kind of getting there and just improving their clinical status. Never stop learning. I know it's going to cost, but choose the right um, courses to take for yourself and make sure there's good return of investment for them
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, I'm not going to take a course on something which I'm never going to do. For
Exactly.
example, I'm interested in zygomatic implants. Am I ever going to do one? Absolutely not. I don't think it's within my field. I don't want to learn it. It's interesting. I think that should be left for oral surgeons because if something happens and if the shit hits the fan, I'm sorry for saying that, I don't know how to treat that.
Yeah.
That's going to be with someone else. The last thing I want is blinding someone or causing some major infection that I am not able to treat. So leave it to the pros. They can do it better than I can. So just that's just something to think about.
Yeah. No, that's funny that you bring it up actually because I reached out to a local. He's a general dentist, but he's big. He's a huge all on four guy in Melbourne and in
Hmm.
Australia. I don't know if you've heard of him, Dr. Alex Vipchenko.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I have.
So I was still we're still in my last year, and I just messaged him saying, "Can I come in shadow?" And he let me come to his 4-day residency for free, that was very nice of him. Me and a friend, and we were watching them place zygomatic implants, and I was like, "Wow, this is
It's
absolutely
insane.
crazy. It's insane.
It it is
It's
insane.
insane."
It's crazy, and it's a service. I mean, I spoke with an oral surgeon once. Like, I mean, what's your thought process about zygomatic implants and pterygoid implants? He told me it's high risk with high rewards,
Yeah.
so you need to be prepared for it. And
Yeah.
very well said when he said like that, because it's true. It's a very risky procedure, but you need to be very well prepared going into that, and you need to really understand how to manage complications. And don't get me wrong, there are weekend courses. There's a week-long courses where you actually get to place 2 or 3 or 4 zygomatic implants. I don't think that's enough for anyone to learn zygomatic implants. I think you should have a lot more oral maxillofacial surgical training, in my opinion,
Yeah.
so you can get to that level. Again, it's all about complication management. Don't if you can't treat a complication on something, then please don't do it. I mean, what's the
Exactly.
reward? You know, Most likely you're going to end up referring to someone else. That patient's never going to come back. You're going to get a bad review. and so on and so on and so on, maybe a lawsuit even. I mean, try holding that in the court of law if you're a GP doing a zygoma and you blind someone's eye.
Exactly.
How
Yeah.
are you going to do that?
And the other
Nothing.
thing is like you have to weigh out the not only the risk and the stress. I think that's the biggest thing is it worth really the stress that you're going to put yourself through, and obviously you're dealing with a patient, so that's another big thing. But
Another factor, exactly.
yeah, it was a great experience. Ophir Fromovich was actually there as well, so that was cool
Who was
meeting
it?
him. Ophir Fromovich.
I don't know
Uh,
him.
I think he was the founder of BLX and Nobel Biocare.
Oh, he's the guy. So he's the guy with the design. Yes, he's the guy who
Yeah,
designed the
yeah.
Nobel
He's a
Active, and
design.
then
Yeah,
moved to with Strawman to design the
yeah.
BLX.
Exactly. I met David there as well and Misag Habibi. So it was pretty cool. It was a
Habibi.
great experience being around.
Yeah,
I
those
think
guys are awesome. Misaf is a whole
he's
level. That
he's
guy's
such
been
a
practicing
great
for
guy.
such a long time. He's incredible.
Yeah, and so that kind of hits back at your point of kind of just going. You kind of have to see what's out there because you just meet new people, you get inspired, and obviously you're just adding to the skill set, and that in turn obviously improves the well-being of your patients, and that's the ultimate goal as for what we do essentially.
Exactly. At the end
Yeah,
of the day.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about outside of dentistry with regards to the dancing. On the live, I heard everyone was asking for you to show your biceps and whatnot. What's life outside of dentistry like for Fadi? By the way,
So
when you were mentioning that you want to do courses in the future, I can just picture you rolling up to the podium and everyone just chanting Fadi. I can just.
that would be nice. That'd be awesome if that happened. No, I'm just kidding. For me, outside dentistry, I mean, dancing. I think the last time I actually did dance, and you brought up the dancing thing, so I got into the dancing, and I was mentioning this earlier, is during residency, one of my patients apparently happened to be a judge at a dancing competition, and she put up my name. And this dancing competition its goal was to raise money for children who have, autism, and it was a kind of like a foundation
Yeah.
for that. So it was something really wonderful with the children. It was in collaboration with the Children's Hospital at VCU. So I know she ends up putting my name, and so she's like, yeah, "Are you interested in doing it?" It's like, sign me up, I guess, because I've never danced before. So let's just give it a shot. So I go in. There's 8 other competitors, of course, and you're doing this for one night only. That's the thing. Like, there's not a lot of other nights. Just one night competition, and they kind of partner you with a professional dancer, and you take dancing classes with them, about 8 of them.
So the Dancing
Uh,
with the Stars, pretty much.
Pretty much exactly. So, however, I don't know how weird the stars, and they're the stars dancers, not us.
Yeah.
So they pick different people from whether you're a lawyer, real estater, medical doctor. Just depends whoever's in the area. So I guess they pick and choose specific people for it. And so they end up for me because I'm like 6'1" and built. So I was like, yeah, you're doing a waltz. I was like, okay, I don't know what a waltz is, but let's go ahead and do it. So they partnered me up with this incredible instructor, and she was just amazing in every way. And she taught me doing the waltz, and by the end of that competition, I ended up winning the competition, and we raised about $96,000 for the
Wow.
Virginia Treatment Center for Children. So it was amazing. It was a once in a lifetime experience. Unfortunately, I have not waltzed since then, so I'm kind of rusty now. 5 years
Yeah.
rusty on the waltz,
That's
but
and that's amazing because
it was
as
it was
Iraqis, when we dance, it's
yeah, we're
complete
terrible.
commotion. It's complete opposite of waltz.
It's definitely not our strongest suit, I would say,
No.
dancing, especially. And doing a waltz, yeah, that's not easy at all. But it was fun. It was a great experience. Other things I do, like for me outside dentistry, for me, my schedule. I have a very routine schedule, so I wake up at 4:15, 4 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
I hit the gym. My gym, I converted my own garage into a gym, so that way I have no excuse not to work out. And I've been very diligent about that since residency. I always go once it opens up at 6 a.m. in the morning. So just kind of kept that same mentality. So, and I'm usually in bed by 9:30, 10 maximum. I'm out. So, that's how that's how my life has been for the last 5 years. So yeah, I mean, besides perio and family and working out, that's pretty much it. And I work 6 days a week, so I only have
Not
my
much free
Sundays
time.
off. And
Yeah.
so no, Sundays when I'm off, it's usually doing a lot of errands at the house. Like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Take the kids here, do this. I was like, okay, I was hoping I would rest for the one day that I have, and there's no such thing as resting. So you're always working all the time.
Yeah, but that's been the one bright spot about COVID, I guess. It's just time to actually chill out and I don't know, it's
Oh, yeah.
not completely chilling out, but it's a different form of work, I guess.
Relaxation in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, I actually want to know more about your home gym because I've just started mine as well. Um,
I got my gym from Amazon, and it's called the I think it's called the what is it called? I can go outside and check in 2 seconds because it's right
no,
here. I can yeah, it's I think I bought it for like $1,000, and I did like monthly payments for it over 5 months. But it's great. Like I can do squats, I can do bench press, flies, everything you can possibly imagine, rows with it. So it's been the best investment that I've had. I had a very old crappy one that I used to have for like own for 8, 9 years. So I just upgraded to this one finally, like
yeah,
maybe 2, 3 months ago. It's starting in yeah maybe like around February, like literally a month before the whole COVID
perfect,
situation. Yeah, so it
perfect
was
timing.
perfect timing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't be had. It was perfect timing. And so I've been loving it, kind of working out, like, just I have everything I want, all the weights that I need. So it's been fun. I have my Peloton bike as well. I
oh,
got a
nice.
treadmill. So it's kind of, I converted the whole thing. So, I have no excuse not to work out. And sometimes if I like it too much, I'll just go twice a day. It's cool. It's
Exactly, it's right
I
there.
just change and go downstairs and it's right there for me.
It's
I
true,
can ask
especially
for
with
anything more.
yeah, with all the COVID stuff too. I think like it's just a lot safer, even if gyms do open up eventually. It just
Exactly.
it's nicer
Having
to
your
be at
own.
home.
And I don't think I paid for a gym membership in over 10 years, which is great.
That's awesome. I'm gonna get you to show me the your
I'm
setup
gonna take a
after.
picture. I'm gonna take a picture and
Yeah,
send it to you.
yeah.
Exactly. It's
I'd
it's
love to see
pretty
it.
neat. It's pretty neat.
What do you do in the winter? Is it cold? That's one issue that
Oh
I have.
yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, the garage is really cold. When I say cold, it's like 38 degrees cold. That's Fahrenheit, so that's close to be like 4 or 5 Celsius.
Mhm.
And at 4:15, 4:30 in the morning, yeah, I'm wearing a sweater I have a small space, like a small heater, electric heater out like in the garage, and I usually turn on the night before. So by the time I get there in the morning, it's like maybe 58 or 60 degrees at its best.
So it's good. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I definitely need to like maybe kind of put some padding around the garage door because it's a pretty old one. So I was looking at this like, yeah, that needs a lot of tune-ups. So
Yeah.
I think that's my next project on a weekend is gonna tune it up, kind of change all the paddings on it and make it kind of more, I think, weather resistant in a way.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that setup. That's the issue. The one issue I think is the winter, but I think I'll probably move everything in the basement once the winter
Yeah, the
hits.
basement is amazing. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, I would love to use this. This is our basement, but I mean, the problem is it has its own small separate bedroom, so I can't use that unfortunately. So I got booted to the gym.
You,
I got booted to the garage at that point
yeah,
in time.
yeah, you got kicked out. Awesome. So I wanted to set a bit of time aside and let Fadi talk about his background story. First out, shout out to Dr. Dean Linsenblatt. I think is that correct? How I said his
I
last
think,
name.
yeah, listen, Black, yes.
Linsenblatt. For his Instagram live session. His sessions are called Dr. Dean's Office, and they're really great. But that's where I heard your story, and I think it was one of the first times you actually talked about this publicly. I think you were saying. And quite
That's true.
honestly, I've heard a lot of inspirational stories. You watch Hollywood movies, and I mean, as Iraqis, we've unfortunately become accustomed to hearing about car bombs and kidnappings and various hardships. But I don't think I've heard anything as inspiring as your story and the resilience and perseverance that you had. So one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on the show is because, with the ongoing pandemic, I know a lot of people are feeling down, and I think your story can provide quite a bit of inspiration for anyone out there facing adversity. I also want people to know that success doesn't come easily, and we see that on social media. We think everything just comes so easy to some people, but you have to have that drive, and you definitely show that. And literally, it seems like nothing stops you. Even if there's a dance competition, you're always number one. So yeah, I guess take us back. I guess it started back in Iraq, so I guess we'll start from there.
Yeah, so I know that I mentioned this at the live IG session, maybe it was about 2 weeks ago. And so, I mean, when I was in Iraq, again, I did my dental school from 2002 to 2007. And this was like maybe like a few months before the war started in 2003. So, kind of around at the end of our first year is when the war happened. So, I think most of the Iraqis at that time, especially at least the dental students, my classmates, were kind of like in limbo. Or is there going to be school? Are we still seeing patients? What's the education status going to be in the next, 4 or 5 years to come? So it was incredibly challenging because a lot of our incredible faculty that we had, they started kind of either leaving the country. And every year we'd see more faculty. They're going and going. A lot of them, some of them got kidnapped. Some of them got killed actually in the process. Um, by the time I reached my senior year of dental school, um, our the location of our dental school was pretty much not I'd say the most best location. There was still a lot of insurgency, Al Qaeda in that area. I literally every day around 12 noon to like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our parking lot would turn into a war zone, and you would see bullets flying right and left, and it was ridiculous. You can go out because you don't know if it might hit you, so you would we would stay indoors, and the way the school was set up back home is that you have your educational building, and then you have the clinics, and you had to walk, and that walking is literally in front of the parking lot. So if you would walking from here to here, from point A to point B, you would definitely see everything that's happening in front of you. So I mean, it was like that. It was like that for a full year, until it got to a point where the Ministry of Education, or higher education at that point in time, is they decided to let's just close the school because it's just too dangerous for the students. I mean, we had faculty not showing up. We had patients refusing to come. It's like, I'm not going to that area. It's a war zone. So are you crazy? I don't want to get killed. And most of our experience as dental students, we got at our fourth and fifth year of dental school back home. That was like that for us. So, um, and for me, I mean, I mentioned this as well as that, but I had two classmates got kidnapped, and they got tortured as well. One classmate got killed as well. So I mean, because of the whole insurgency thing. And sometimes I would drive to school, and literally you'd see a car bomb explode right in front of you, and what you do is you turn around pretty much and find another way to go to school, so it just that, I mean, you'd see these things on daily basis. You go to school and you see dead bodies on the street. Someone most likely got kidnapped, tortured, and their bodies thrown out on the street. And it was like that. So I think for us, a lot of us just got desensitized, and I think I mentioned this as well, is that, you hear the first big bomb explosion, and you heard like 20, 30, or 50 people got killed, and it was like, oh my God, is this happening? Is this real? And then happens the next day and the next day, and now it's not just one, but now there's 4 or 5 that are happening a day. And you just pray that it's not one of your family members. You just pray not one of your cousins or one of your friends. And there's just so many victims that got lost in that, in those, explosions that happened from insurgency and all those things. So, and we were able to get it through. I have no idea honestly how, but in fact, a lot of faculty were able to stay there and teach us. A lot of our students were actually at that point, I think we dropped down to half almost by the time I was in my senior year. And from my class, because a lot of them just left the country, they went to the neighboring countries, whether it's Jordan, Egypt, or Emirates. So they just left because their parents were too afraid for them to stay in Iraq at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And Baghdad was a war zone. I mean, it was the worst place to be at was Baghdad itself. It had the highest level of insurgency than anywhere else because everyone would come to Baghdad, do their crap, and then they would leave.
Indeed, yeah.
So it was like that all the time. And by the time I was in my senior year dental school, my father got a government position, and which is very high ranking at that time. So, which means that he had to have bodyguards taking him back and forth, and a huge convoy. And when I say bodyguards, I mean at least about close 40, 50, maybe up to 80 bodyguards that he would have, and a convoy of 12 to 15 vehicles. It was just like that. So, and for me, as a dental student, I cannot go just drive my car again anymore. I had to have my own as well for my protection. And this was my senior year. So I was like, do you drop everything as a senior dental student? And you've been through hell. You've seen a lot of stuff. You got one more year. Do you drop everything and move to another country and start all over again? Back, like, since you're like a first year dental student, and possibly go through undergrad if you're going to another different foreign country. So I was like, it's a senior year. Let me just kind of, hopefully we can work it through. And again, we were able to do that up to like maybe 2 months before graduation. And again, at that time, I had like 18 bodyguards. I had 5 vehicles. 2 of them were armored vehicles, and that's how I used to come back to school.
Crazy,
And I tried to, I never let the bodyguards get into the school because I think it just made the students feel uncomfortable. So they would always stand outside guard just to be safe. So it was on April 24th, and I came in early, same time that morning. And what was interesting that day was the security at the front for the school, no one was there. I mean, that was the interesting fact. There's always 3 or 4. They check your ID before they let you in. That day, there was no one there at the time that I reached. It was kind of odd, but again, we didn't suspect anything. So I go to my locker, and one of my best friends was there with me, and and I had a patient at I think around 8:30, 9 o'clock for a complete denture. We're supposed to kind of take wax try-ins and all that stuff to deliver a complete denture for him. And my friend, he was incredible in pros. He was so smart, so talented, and that was his goal. He wanted to be a prosthodontist, and again, incredible guy. And his name was Hasan, Nazar Mosconi, and he was also from Baghdad. And we've been through middle school, high school, dental school now 5 years. So I've known him for a very, very long time. Been to his house, studied together, all those things. We've done, so just like a very good close friend of mine, and like a brother, honestly. So I go to my locker, and he's there with me, walking together. And the moment I opened my locker, it exploded pretty much. And there was a bomb that was planted underneath my locker, and the huge sound, there's just a lot of dust everywhere. And I'm on the floor. Hassan's on the floor at this point in time. I think it took me maybe a couple of minutes or maybe seconds. I'm not sure. And I open my eyes and I wake up, and I sit up. I sit myself up, and I see Hassan literally right next to me, and he's barely moving his head. I don't see any blood from him. Just sees dust. Literally, a lot of dust on him. And I look down at myself, and I see literally my left foot is pretty much gone at this point in time. And there's just a lot of blood everywhere. One of my toes, like I mentioned, was just kind of dangling by a piece of skin at this point. So, I get myself up. I'm on one foot, and I'm jumping out, and I'm just telling the students, get out, get out, get out, in Arabic. And So I do that, and by the time I reach to the front gate of the school, the bodyguards see me, and they thought the explosion was in the medical school because we're like literally next door to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, she's a med student, you're a fourth year med student at that time. So they go rush to her because they think that's where the explosion came from. And where my locker is positioned is very close to that wall, neighboring the medical school.
Yeah.
So again, the bodyguards pick me up, they put me in the car, and the moment we get into the side road, another bomb explodes on another roadside bomb explodes under my car, and just literally,
Wow.
I remember the back of my car literally just flying up, and then just bounces back again on the floor. And then within a matter of seconds, a sniper starts shooting at the back window where my head is, and you can see the two bullets on the car, on the window where my head was. So the bodyguards, they were able to take me to the medical hospital for the medical school, which is right next door. Um, and one of the rookie doctors who just graduated med school, he sees my foot and and he draws a line and it's like, yep, we need to cut it right now, amputate it. And literally one of my bodyguards, he goes, it's like, if you cut one thing out of him, I'm going to shoot you right there on the spot. It was just like that. Like, because they're responsible for my safety at that point in time.
Yeah.
So they take me to another specialty hospital, still within that area, and one of the orthopedic surgeons comes in and he sees me and he says, "No, you have your big toe left. So it looks like if you can still save that, you'll be able to walk again, without any amputation or anything like that." At this point, I don't know how much I've lost of my foot at this point in time. Again, I'm still in that shock phase, slightly, a little bit on the delirious side, maybe. So my father at that point in time, had an envoy that was going to Europe and to meet with other ministers of electricity. That was his position at that time. And they literally give him a call while he's on the plane. And they say, "Dr. Hassan, I'd just like to let you know, but there was a small incident. Fadi got slightly injured, and just a little bit of scratches. He might lost a toe." That's all they told him. And he's on the plane about to leave. And then he was on. I mean, that point in time, the plane was already moving, so he can. You can't go back. He's already in Jordan so he's going to take an international flight. But he was able to do it was call the American ambassador in Iraq at that time and allow them to get me into the green zone, to their field hospital inside the green zone itself. So going that trip from the medical hospital and where the medical school is to the green zone was the most interesting trip in the world. I have to say, I was in an ambulance and the biggest convoy you can possibly imagine. I felt like a VIP, but half delirious VIP. I would say I was, still 23 years old, so I had no idea what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And my mom calls me on the way, and she's frantic, crying. She sees it on the news that the bomb exploded in dental school, and it was on the news within minutes, literally. And at that point in time, I had just started dating my wife. So I was in Iraq, she was still in the States, so we had met maybe once before during the Christmas break, like maybe 3 months before this all happened. So my mom calls me and she says, "What happened? Are you okay?" And she's crying, she's sobbing. And Iraqi moms, they're everywhere and their emotions are everywhere. I was like, "No, Mom, don't worry. I'm fine. I'll see you soon." I'm doing this with the calmest voice in the world.
Wow.
I have no idea how I was able to be so calm and aloof, as they would say. It was like an ice cubicle. So I calmed her down. It's like, "Mom, don't worry. I'm fine. It's just something very small. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to see you soon." And mind you, this is a guy who's in an ambulance with an amputated foot, and I'm just looking at it, and just with a stupid bandage on it, and I'm just talking so calmly. And then at that point in time, my wife, was again still in dating at that point in time because I've only seen her once. So she calls me from the States, and I'm talking to her. It's like, yeah, don't worry, Habibi, I'm fine as well. And I calm her down as well, all the way while I'm going. This is like maybe a 30-minute trip. That's all it is.
Wow.
Um, so get into the green zone. I'm in the hospital for about 7 to 8 days, I would say. I had three big surgeries there. They took about close to 40 shrapnels from my foot and on my leg as well. And
Crazy.
they took a big skin graft from my right thigh and tried to close my left thigh. Now, again, this is a combat hospital. It's a field. It's a combat field. So the patients don't stay that long. They're in, they're
Hmm.
out. So literally 24 hours later, after my big skin graft to cover the rest of my foot, 24 hours after that, I was discharged of the hospital. Now,
Wow.
for us who do gingival graft, let's say, I'm going to compare it like that.
Yeah,
You need to have a very stable bed.
of course.
That should not be moving. In cases of when you have a peripheral limb like that, like a limb, especially like a foot, your foot needs to be up in the air for 2 weeks. You
Yeah.
cannot be on the floor 24 hours later. And they ask you to walk on it. That's
Wow.
exactly what they did to me. It's like you have to walk on it. I was like, so I have no idea. I was on crutches and trying to walk. I was like, yep, you're good. You can get discharged tomorrow. I was like, what the hell? I was like,
Wow.
I'm still in a lot of pain. I was on morphine for like a whole week, and I was like pumping morphine like with a click button and telling you that shit works, but it's the worst once you get it out of your
Get out of it.
system.
Yeah.
And I think you heard me say like there's a lot of hallucination that comes with that drug when you're out of it. So for a whole week, I was at home now at this point in time, and my body's just kind of all the weirdest hallucinations I would see every time I try to go to bed. Um, so at this point, there's no pain, but there's a weird smell coming from my foot. I thought it was just the medications getting coming out of my system. I'm sweating it out, whatever. That was my thinking process at that time. Not the smartest, maybe thinking process. Uh, but it just wasn't what something was wrong.
Yeah.
So my at this time, my dad's back, of course, from his trip, and he was only there for like 2 or 3 days. Um, and he calls a family surgeon who's seen combat surgeries. He was one of the plastic surgeons during the Iraq-Iran wars in the 80s, so he's seen a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And he opens the bandages and all that. It's like, yeah, that graft has failed and it's pretty much necrotic. And if the
Wow.
longer you leave it, it's very much you're gonna lose your foot.
It's gonna eat away. Yeah.
It's gonna eat it away. And the area where they did the harvest from my right thigh, the sutures opened up completely, so I can see my flesh all the way through at this point in time.
Wow.
And there's no pain. Amazingly, there's no pain, but I can see everything there. Everything's yellow and pink and white, all the stuff that I should not be seeing, and I'm looking at it every day.
Hmm.
Um, so he tells my parents like, can at least we get him into my hospital or as an alias, as under a different name. At least we need to take care of this. And my father just says, hell no. I almost lost my son 3 times. He's not going anywhere. If there's anything you need to do, you have to do it in the house. So he says, well, do you guys have a scissor and some alcohol? So we get him some alcohol and he wipes the scissors down, and on the spot, he's cutting through the skin of all that necrotic
Wow.
tissue. And I'm awake doing this. And I don't wish it for anyone, but if there's something that is excruciating pain when someone's cutting through your skin and you're fully awake, I have no idea how I was able to stay awake the entire time, not passing out. And he did that every day for the next 7 days. Um,
Can't believe that.
and
Wow.
and for me, and I know I mentioned this as well, is that I used to click my fingers. So the more pain that I had, the louder the click that it was. Um, And my sister, again, she's a med student, so she would be there assisting him. So he would, and the following days he came in with his sterile surgical kit, but there's no anesthesia. I'm
Mm-hmm.
home. He's doing this while I'm fully awake because, he's not gonna sedate me or anything like that while I'm, in a house, without an anesthesiologist. So I mean, he did that for almost a full week, and you slowly started seeing the tissue getting more pink. So there's it's coming back alive again as
Yeah.
he's kind of digging through it, and it's like literally excavating, like you get an ice cream and you're scooping it out. That's exactly what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that for a whole week. And now I think this was close to now my 23rd birthday because this happened all 10 days before my 23rd birthday.
Wow.
Um, so it was nice that my dental classmates, they came over, they brought a cake, we celebrated it, and I think that was the last time I saw a lot of them for the last time that day, because about a week later is when I went to Jordan
Mm-hmm.
and I got had my remaining surgeries done there, and had three more surgeries where they found a lot of there were still shrapnels apparently that was not taken out. I had a lot of infection going on that your standard antibiotics was not working. Everything was showing being resistant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they put me on some weird cocktail that would make me sick to my stomach every time I would get it. And I had another skin graft that was harvested also from my right thigh to correct the first skin graft that was a failure, and also to correct the first harvest site where the pretty much the sutures opened up. So that was done twice pretty much at that point in time. Um, I was in the hospital of almost a month in Jordan, and I got discharged literally a week before my finals back in Iraq. Um, and what I would do is my friends, they used to scan the lectures and they would email it. And my parents, my mom she was with me in Jordan. She used to print it out for me, and I used to literally study before and after the surgeries. After I wake up from them.
That's
And,
incredible.
and we did, we had to do hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So, you go inside a glass tube, and, I would have the technician guys like, hey, can you please just, next page, next page. So that's how I used to study for my lectures at that time. Um, so I ended up doing my finals at the cultural attaché in Jordan, and they flew one of the instructors from Iraq, and he would administer the test for me in there at the same time that we had in Iraq, so in Baghdad, and just finished. I was able to finish all my finals at that time, and I was in the graduation, so I never had a chance to like throw my cap or walk the stage or anything like that. They can actually Photoshop my picture into the picture. That's what my friends that's what my friends were able to do.
That's
So
amazing.
I was like, and they sent me the pictures. It was nice of them, honestly. At least
Yeah.
they could do it for me. Um, so the first time for me, doing a graduation, walking and actually getting coded was in Colorado where I did my dental school again. So I guess for me at that time, and it's been going on since, I'm a really true believer that when they say what doesn't kill you make you stronger, I am a true believer of that. And they told me, listen, you can't walk for 6 months. I walked in 6 weeks. They told me you can never play sports again. I played basketball literally maybe 3 to 4 months later, and I used to play
Wow.
basketball all the time. And I just push myself. Anytime people tell me that, hey, listen, you can't do this, it's impossible, I really like to prove them that I can do this, that nothing is impossible, no matter how hard the situation is, how much pain you have. And I still have pain. This is now going on for pretty much 13 years now. It's still I still have phantom pain. I still sometimes, at night I wake up, I feel my toes like someone's just jabbing me with something sharp, or someone just hit my foot with a hammer. That's the sensation that I get from the phantom pain. But you know what? It's for me, it's kind of it's almost kind of like a motivation in a way. It pushes me that to work harder. It's like a fire inside me that I feel like
Get a
there's no reason.
second chance at life,
Yeah, there's no
essentially.
reason exactly, there's no reason to give up. This
Yeah.
was my second opportunity to live, and
Hmm.
I need to make the best out of it. And something like I always like to think about myself is like, there's two ways you can take this. You can either go into that completely depressed mode, into maybe narcotics and drugs and feeling shit about yourself because this happened to you,
Hmm.
or you can look at the other side to it. It's like, screw this. This is not going to beat me down. I am going to get up out of this, and I'm going to do really well. And that's the path that I just decided to take for myself. And I made that decision, Ricky, was at the hospital. And I think and I think I mentioned this was after my last surgery, and I was in so much excruciating pain because they did the second skin graft, and I think I was told that was maybe the last time that I literally broke down in tears. My mom was in the hospital room with me, and I was just like, why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I do to deserve it? And I just literally broke down to tears, and I went, and she's there with me. It's like, it's okay, it'll be fine. That's how life is, and I think I just wiped my tears, and I started thinking about it. This is the part where you have a thinking brain, you have an emotional part of your brain, and I just part where my thinking brain is like, this is not gonna overcome me. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make the best out of it. Screw all emotions aside at that point in time. This is my path from now on.
Hmm.
So I just decided to be a lot more focused, more determined, and just pushing myself harder and harder every single time. And and that's been kind of my motivation since then. You know, try and be on top of my game, push myself harder, never giving up, and that's the key. We all go through very difficult situations in our lifetime, and we all have our own stories to tell and different circumstances. The question is, how do we get out of it? What kind of mentality are we getting out of it? And again, I just chose the path for myself, not to be in that lonely, depressed mentality, but more in an optimistic that this is a second opportunity for me to live. And I did the best out of it. I finished dental school. I was able to get into dental school at Colorado at a very young age,
Hmm.
literally the youngest international dental student. I worked hard for my getting to residency as well, and looking at myself where I am today. Yes, I'm 35 years old, 36 years old, but I have a lifetime ahead of me. I have so much I can do. I believe in myself that I can really achieve that. And that's just kind of the mentality I've set for myself. And I think it's, if I can do it, then anyone else can do it. You know what? I'm not so different than anyone else. There's people who've been through a lot worse. I'm 100% confident of that, and they've turned their lives literally upside down 100 in a much better, positive way. So, we all inspire each other. We all want the best for each other. So it just depends on how we do it, and if hopefully sharing this story is it's going to help a lot of the folks out there and just kind of show them that that we can all do this, and with support, help with friends, with family, with us, you can definitely get there. You can
Yeah.
definitely get.
It's incredible. Like even just hearing it like the second time, still speechless. You're just the first time I kind of talked to you and stuff, and I'm sure people that meet you for the first time, obviously they don't know the background story, and you don't ever show it, and you're such a humble person, even though uh, you've accomplished so much. And as a fellow human being and a fellow Iraqi, I was telling you earlier, you kind of, I don't know, when you first talked, it just felt like you were a brother to me. So I
No,
appreciate.
the feeling is mutual, and we had this discussion before we started. I mean, it's for me, it's seeing my colleagues, my friends, and maybe from people from my own hometown, from Baghdad, from Iraq as well. It's just seeing them succeed, and despite all the adversities that they've seen in their lives, and from kidnapping to people getting killed to bomb explosions and seeing where they, what they've achieved today, it just makes me feel so humble, so proud of them, And, the way I see, all of us here live this life once. I like to think that we can really make the best out of it and really, and this will sound cliche maybe for a lot of people, but helping each other is literally the best thing that we can do. And that's how we as humans, I guess, evolve in a way, like by, just kind of, surpassing all the difficult circumstances and being for one another. So it might be small for some people, might be big for other people, but it's that gesture that people do care, and that we're here for each other. We're all human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're white or brown or black or you're whatever religion you're from, and I mentioned this as well. I go every year. I'm a Muslim, but I go every year to a church and I light a candle for my friend Hassan as an honor to him, because I'm 100% sure if I was a person that was 6 feet under and he would be alive today, I'm pretty confident he would do the same thing. And for me, it's an honor to him that I'm alive today, and I always like to think, what would he have achieved if he was still alive? I have no doubt he would have reached the stars, because he is so brilliant in so many ways. And I'm sure God knows what the future would have been for him, if he was alive today to tell his side of the story of it. And a lot of what I do is honestly is just for him, I mean, so that's the least I can do. I wish I could do more. Hopefully I will do more in the future. So it's just one step at a time.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I'm so sorry about your friend. Obviously, that's a huge, devastating thing to happen at such a young age, and seeing it in front of your eyes. But if I guess if we can take something at least away from it, is I appreciate your mindset and how you look at similarities rather than differences. Like we're all a human race. Doesn't matter the ethnicity, the religion, and unfortunately, that's what's plagued a lot of the world, and what's held us back from progressing is fighting over various religions and just being of different skin color or whatever it may be. And so that's truly remarkable. I think we should just be more open to accepting everyone just as a human. Again, thank you again for sharing that story. I think with these tough times, I know it's nothing compared to what you face, sorry, but I think people will definitely get something out of this. And I know it's probably quite tough for you to say the story and share it with people, but I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it, because I think it'll definitely inspire people, and it'll show them that you too can fight through adversity, whatever it may be, in whatever form it may be. We all face it different from one way or another. We face it, but thank you again. I really, really appreciate that you shared that with us. I'm speechless again. Like second time I've heard this, and
the pleasure.
I salute you. You inspire us.
Not at all. I mean, just I guess we're all born in different parts of the world, So you don't choose that. None of us chooses that, honestly. And some of us might be lucky enough to have a very different lifestyle. They've never seen any of this, and that's amazing for them. But not all people are like that. So just
and we're still better off than a lot of people as well.
Exactly. That's just life. So I mean, you take the good, the bad, the ugly with it, and it just depends on how you plan on setting yourself for it. I mean, and moving forward with it. So I think the sky's the limit for all of us. That's how I really believe that we have so much to give back and so much to achieve, personally, and maybe not even to non-personally as well. But I mean, just that's just my thinking process about it. I guess it's just I really feel that there's so much we can do, and it might take baby steps. It might take years. It might take months. But I think we can all get there. If we really seriously help each other with it, no matter how small it is, I think we can get there for sure.
That's amazing. Thank you again. So I guess to end it off, we'll end off on a light note and kind of switch it up. We'll do a rapid fire question period. I know
Sure.
I know the answer to this first question. What's your favorite food?
All right, go.
I think I know the answer.
I know last time he was like, I love Middle Eastern, so I love my kebabs and shish tawuks. That'd be my number one choice.
So much
The simich mesgouf, which is exactly the Iraqi fish
perfection.
that's grilled on steaks, pretty much yeah. So
Yeah.
other thing would be I love sushi. I really love sushi. So that's my second thing. For me, Sunday is my sushi day, so I love to eat
Sunday sushi.
sushi on Sundays usually.
I like
My
it.
go-to, yeah. Sundays is sushi day for me.
Favorite procedure? I think we kind of went over this, but what's your
I
favorite?
love gum grafts, man. I can literally do that all day long. My second option would be immediate implants on the aesthetic zones because I do all my provisionals chairside, and I get to
Okay.
display and sculpt my provisional, and I get to see the follow-ups up to 6 months, and when I take it out and I see that emergence profile. I'm gonna put it this way, it's like sex on the beach for perio. It's our way of dental porn. Don't get I mean, so
Yep.
that's just how we love it. All of us kind of just water when we see
Yeah.
that or when we take that provisional. It's like, yeah, that's gonna look nice.
You're a
Uh,
proud father at that point.
exactly. So that point we love that. So yeah, that's my second favorite procedure after soft tissue grafting.
Awesome. What dental procedure do you miss? So if you weren't in perio, you are in perio, sorry, but what's something that you miss?
What I miss is root canals because my second option after perio was going to be an endodontist, and I literally had my endo application ready to be sent out. So I had perio and endo.
Wow.
I was between the two. I was like, I invested too much time in perio. I'm just going to go to perio, and I literally took all my letters of recommendation from endo just threw in the garbage. So that.
That must have been tough.
So yeah, but I mean, I think I just can see myself looking at a root canal all day, every day for the rest of my life. I think for me, it might have been maybe just too boring for me. And I have a lot of
Yeah.
endo friends, endo brothers, I like to call them my colleagues. They love and breathe endo. I love and breathe perio, so we all have our passion, and that perio is just my passion, honestly.
Yeah. Favorite sports team?
I don't watch soccer, so don't get me wrong. I'm maybe the only Iraqi that does not watch soccer, which is
Yeah.
really weird.
You're not allowed doing that.
Which
That's
is
illegal.
really weird. Yeah, I've been in basketball for a long time, since middle school and high school. My friends used to find me. It's like if they lost Fadi, they find him in the basketball court. So, for me, favorite team. I think as growing up, it's always been the Bulls because of Michael Jordan. Now,
You
it's
Nuggets or
I've been a little bit out of touch
okay.
with basketball recently, but it's still my favorite sport. I
Yeah.
mean, that's always going to be my favorite sport. I don't understand American football. I don't think I'll ever understand American football. I've been to maybe one baseball game in my entire life, and I don't think I'll ever go again. But that's yeah. So, but if I have a chance, it'd be basketball all day, every day.
Awesome. Finally, dream car. Do you have a dream car or anything like that?
A dream car. Ooh, if I had a dream car, I'd love to get the Nissan GTR.
Okay. We'll make
Yeah,
that happen. It's gonna happen.
that car is just
It's a
the
beauty.
technology in that car is just incredible. So I
It's
think
a
that would be a Japanese car.
yeah.
Let's just go with it that way.
Yeah.
But I love a Nissan GTR. Not each one of the Ferraris or Lamborghinis, none of this stuff. No, like that Godzilla.
You're
The
happy with a
Nissan GTR is the
GTR.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're happy with a GTR. You're a
I
content
would be
guy.
I would be extremely happy with a Nissan GTR. I would
I
be
love it.
extremely happy if I had that one. So but maybe in the future, that'd be one I'd love to have.
My brother owns a dealership, so maybe come down to Canada. We'll hook you up.
There you go. There you go.
The family friend special.
Very exactly.
Yeah.
Professional discount.
That's amazing, Fadi. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
me.
Javi, for the invitation.
It was awesome. I think people are gonna absolutely love this. So thanks again.
Thank you again. Yeah.
And Yeah, hopefully we'll get this sent out as soon as possible.
Sure, and hopefully have a chance to meet soon as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Mastering Dentistry Series on the Noobie Dentist Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and follow us. All relevant links are in the podcast description. See you next time.